What mistakes did the writers make in this episode?
I feel like it's a sin to say that the writers made any mistakes in this entire show.
Well, I mean, they're great. They're obviously DB-wise. Whew, I mean, they're amazing. What do you think?
I really like the way they write dialogue. I do. I don't have any real specific dialogue problems. I just think that Rob, as the oldest son, should have had something to do. Mm-hmm. We don't learn anything about him at all.
Yeah, I think going back to what I said earlier, I think just I know why the characters, whether it's physical action exposition or dialogue exposition, I feel, you know, Jamie is just a little on the nose. You know, I feel like, I mean, bumping into him and challenging him in a duel at a tournament, I mean, I get it. I know why we need it, but I would have liked to see them develop the characters just a little less on the nose. Obviously, Arya's the tomboy, you know, maybe just a little less on the nose.
Be a little more vague with it?
I don't know.
Yeah. Like be a little more vague with the way they presented it?
Not vague at all. No, specific, obviously, but just a little less like princess, tomboy, bad guy, evil queen.
Yeah, they presented a very strong dichotomy there.
Yeah.
But even then, I feel like that's done with a sole purpose of subverting those characters. I feel like that's one of the biggest themes of Game of Thrones, subverting what you've come from. You know, each of the characters, if you watch them now versus where they are currently, almost all of them have completely subverted their own expectations.
But I mean, like, yeah, absolutely, that's true. But you know, I guess they stay on the same course essentially. You know, Arya goes off and is at one point clearly mistaken for being a boy, or you know what I mean? It's like it's really on the nose.
And there should have maybe a little bit more of a complex relationship between Jaime Lannister and Ned. They did fight on the same side of a war, and win it together. Yeah. So I don't think it was so just like, would love to see you down in King's Landing at the next joust.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But didn't they have something to talk about, like a war story? Didn't they? Like, so how things been? Is there some mutual respect? Because it's so good about complicated relationships. And also, there's nothing between Catelyn Stark and Cersei, hardly at all.
Yeah, hardly.
Like just one line during dinner, but that's got to be interesting. They have sort of similar lives. They're both married to parallel to men that know each other for a long time. There should be some history there, like is there some gossip or anything at all? But they hardly say anything to each other.
Yeah, they did hold back on showing their relationship. I will say that I just thought about that. They did hold back on their relationship a little bit. I kind of wanted to see more of it.
Not even just their relationship, but the strength of both women in one place, because both are very strong. And both have their petty issues. Now, to put them sitting next to each other in the same room, I would love to see some sparks fly with their, you know, sometimes when you're the same side of sandpaper rubbing against each other, and I feel like that's them. They're the same side of sandpaper, and they're just, I would love to see them, you know.
And Illyrio, who's sheltering Viserys and Daenerys over in Pentos.
Yeah.
We don't find out anything about him. He appeared to be an important character. In retrospect, now I can understand why they didn't show that much about him, because it's really all about Viserys and Daenerys right over there. But how did they get over there? Why did they get over there? Right. Who is he? Who is this guy, and why is he protecting them and sheltering them?
They explain a lot of these things throughout the episodes. You know, of course they do, but you know, picking apart a pilot.
Picking apart just like this one episode, what they could show.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder, like, if I wrote this and handed it in myself, what would they say to me?
What would they say?
Right. They would be like, Jorah Mormont just approaches Daenerys out of nowhere, and I don't know who the Mormonts are.
Why does he give her books?
Bear Island is. He says Bear Island. I don't know who Bear Island is. It wasn't in the opening credits of any of the locations.
Right.
And I don't know how did he come to fight with the Dothraki? Why would they accept him? What's he doing over here?
Yeah.
What's this, like, white guy with armor doing just all of a sudden at this wedding? How did he get an invite to the wedding? What's he doing over here?
Yeah, and why did Uncle Benji get allowed to leave the wall for a bit to go to this party?
Yeah. It's a really good question. He's a deserter. Cut his head off.
You can go to the party.
Yeah, and the director's cut. They execute Benjen, outside for deserting the night watch.
Yeah, that's some of the things.
There was some exposition with the Benjen Ned Stark conversation.
Right.
There was a little bit of unrealistic dialogue there. I forgot exactly what he said to him, but he's like, I can't believe my brother might be the hand of the king soon.
Yeah.
That was redundant. Well, I
Right.
guess we wanted to show that they were brothers, but we already know
but we
that
know,
he's
like his
gonna be the
Uncle
hand of the
Benji, his
king.
uncle.
Yeah, and did Catelyn really think that he had the obligation, that he had the opportunity to turn this down? Like, are you allowed to do that?
I don't think.
all?
I don't
Like,
think you.
thank you
could.
anyway for coming. I know you came a month all the way up here, and you didn't even know I was going to take the job.
I think that's why he looked that way.
But I'm just
like,
going
he
to turn
came
this
so
down.
far.
Right.
I want to thank you for
Right.
reaching out, and we'll be in touch down the line if any other opportunities come. But she was like, you could turn this down if you want to, and he was like, that's the king.
You can't. No, I don't think we're allowed to turn it down.
Yeah.
You know.
Besides, she knew he was going to take the
I
job.
know. Yeah. You know. Yeah. Interesting.
He didn't really ask.
Interesting.
Either. He kind of just
Interesting.
looked in there and said, "Yeah, you're gonna do that."
How interesting how Catelyn knows like this has to happen, and whether she's okay with it or not, she allows it to happen. And then we look at Cersei, who really does her best to turn the head of that king. You know, where Catelyn is just like, okay, all right. And Cersei's like, I will make sure that he does what I say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Cersei's watching her husband openly make out with other women in
Yeah.
the party,
Oh, yeah, the king-
and she doesn't
the king is
register any sort of reaction. She doesn't like look away with disgust or reach her wine and drink it, and or get up and
That's so
and
great. Yeah, that's
leave.
great exposition.
But she, you know, I guess they wanted to show that this is just commonplace for him because he already says he wants to whore his way to an early grave.
Yeah.
I just thought of one other thing writing I would have done. When I heard Meister Lewin for the first time, I was like, are they saying Mr. in a different way?
Oh,
What's a Meister? Who is this guy? Is it like a code name for uncle? Because every now and then when you hear a word, you know, like wildling or Meister, and you don't know what that is, I would have said, you could have had a little conversation about, you know, so how long has your Meister been here? You know, like we didn't know that they train at the Citadel, and every single town has one. All the kingdoms do. So I didn't know what Meister Lewin was when I first heard it. But
Again, we learn all these things. You do learn them all, but
more in lines of thinking of like, again, what would my notes be if I wrote the thing?
the first
you know?
pilot,
Somebody would be
right.
like, what's a Meister? Brian, you have to explain what a Meister is in your pilot.
With that, do you think that it's?
I don't have a 10-episode order, so you know you don't have that luxury.
With that, do you think it's necessary that they explain all these things in a pilot episode?
Not all of them, but there's little things that stick in your mind that you're wondering about. Now, some of those things are really healthy, like White Walkers.
Yeah.
I know, but I know that we're going to revisit that. And the other things you just have to pick up in context, like when somebody says what, and they explain this once. He's like, "What's your sigil?" And it's like, "What?" The flag, the emblem, the banner. That's later explained when Ned is sitting on the throne for Robert while he's out hunting or something. But some of the things are not explained right away.
yeah.
I have no idea what a Meister is until later on. But again, there's so much information to meter out. You have to wonder how much of it is important.
How much, of it is right now? Yeah. And that's the skill of writing a pilot, is how much can we explain, and should we explain, and do we explain right now?
Yeah.
To hook a buyer, to hook an executive, to hook a network, to hook an audience, most importantly.
Right.
And again, we're being super nitpicky, but really they nailed it with it. They did.
They nailed this entire thing. That was a perfect pilot, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a great pilot.
It's a fun one. I wouldn't say perfect. I would say fun.
As close as perfect as I've ever seen.
I don't know. I mean, there's some shows I don't know if I should talk about right now. And I'll just say this: I really like watching that pair of pants fall from the sky. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, I'm lost.
It's Breaking Bad.
Really?
Yeah, that's a great pilot.
That's the other real titan of our time.
Great pilot.
But-
Anyway, yeah.
I don't think it's better than this one. I might love it, but I
Kind
feel
of
like
apples and oranges.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I think about the subject matter, yeah.
So there's nothing really to compare this to.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But little tiny details here and there about stuff that could be explained, sure. But again, now that I think about it, I second guess myself, because Meister is not. It's
not necessary.
important. There's
It's not
only so much real
necessary.
estate on the page.
Right.
And you don't need it. You know,
Yeah,
it would
yeah,
felt
yeah.
like it was crammed in. You know, if he was like,
Yeah,
Ben,
that's a-
Meister like me has been in your family for. I didn't train at the Citadel for all those years to be
Right.
assigned to Winterfell. You wouldn't have needed that.
Maybe that's why they made Bran the eyes for the audience in this episode, because as we're seeing it through a 10-year-old, we're just seeing what a 10-year-old's going to see it and what's most important to a 10-year-old, you know, and maybe that's what it is.
I'm glad that they actually kept out a couple details in this, because I feel like that it helps. I feel like it helps build the world.
Like what?
Everything, the whole Meister thing, all that. I feel like knowing that those things exist, even I feel like even if you don't know that they're going to explain some of those minor details, I feel like the fact that they exist help you understand that this is an entire world, so it immerses you better.
Yeah.
And I feel like had they gone into detail with some other things, it would have negatively impacted the pilot.
Also, it's really different when you know you have 10 episodes to shoot. You can postpone stuff.
Yeah,
when
sure.
you know you're going to be on, HBO with that many viewers, you know that you have time. It's different when you're just writing a pilot as a writing sample, and it all has to be, it has to promise so much more and also work as a self-contained story. So some of these things don't apply.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big one.
Game of Thrones is a surprise factory. I mean, pick one.
Yeah.
The body
surprises.
parts disappearing in the pilot is a surprise.
The incestuous relationship is a huge surprise. That was really gross.
Shoving Bran off.
Shoving Bran off the
The
I was about to say,
decapitation
shoving him
right at
off
the
the
beginning,
thing.
you know? Ned's just hanging out with his family, and someone's like, Ned, you gotta go decapitate this guy. Oh, bring the 10-year-old. I mean,
that was interesting to me.
I think those are the most...
The fact that those creatures have been dead for thousands of years and no one believes in them, that was a surprise.
I feel like that adds a level of impact to
sure.
the amount of impact I thought about that. Like, they didn't believe in these things, but they exist, and now you're kind of aware of the ignorance of these characters.
No, they believe in them. It's just like if I were to say, dude, I just saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex outside.
Oh, okay. They don't believe that they exist anymore. Because of that, you kind of put into this awareness of their ignorance as characters, as a community almost. I think that's what makes the White Walkers even more daunting.
I think the content itself is a surprise, as far as like watching this young lady get raped, like watching it, and it's like right there. Watching how, and I think that's why this show is so great, because it pushed so many boundaries. And though it is HBO, it's still, they still allow a lot of different things to occur, and you know, of this young this dwarven character who is now being ransacked by 4 prostitutes. It's like,
that's
okay, we're going into this. This is what this is gonna be. It's like here's the bar for television. Here's, you know, like other shows, and then here is Game of Thrones, and this is the bar we're starting at. And it only just gets crazier.
They're very unfiltered. And I love that.
I think that's a great surprise. They
pay a lot of respect to the subject matter and the time period, because I mean, just
treat it
with the way that they show things, they're very unapologetic.
Absolutely.
And I think it's because of that I can appreciate all of the little actions a little more. You know, the rape, that was terrible. That's like very hard to watch.
It's surprising that they did it.
Yeah, the fact that they did it.
Even before
you know
that.
what I'm saying?
Right.
And I feel like because the brutality adds a layer to the characters themselves. Even though it's not a character-based thing, really, the brutality and just the misogyny of the entire series, I think it adds a layer to the characters as they grow.
The profound cruelty and passion of the characters. Mm-hmm. You know, at the beginning, Viserys just says to Daenerys, I need you to be perfect today. And you'll think, oh, maybe they have a sweet relationship. Then he walks over to her and is just like, I would let every single one of those 40,000 men have sex with you and their horses to get this. And you're just like, whoa! Yeah, like the unbelievable cruelty and the passion of the characters is shocking.
You have the body of a woman now. and then he grazes her body, and it's just like vomit, you know? It's
Yo,
like,
so
you are so awful.
That's one of them crazy things, but I may be off with this a little bit. Y'all can tell me if I am. But I feel like the reason why people resonate with this show on such a heavy level is because I think that in one way or another, as people, we exude that very savage mentality. I feel like
I hope I don't.
maybe not to maybe not to the, maybe
when I'm
not
driving
to,
through traffic,
maybe not to that extent, but I think that the exhilaration we get from this show is the exact same exhilaration we got when we saw The Dark Knight and Heath Ledger's performance. You know, that savagery. I think that all is inside of us, and I think we actually like it.
I mean,
I think we
it's
embrace it to some extent.
Yeah, watching a horror film.
And it's pleasurable almost in a sadistic way, and I think that's why we love it so much, to be honest. Maybe I'm off there, but I'm just assessing people and why they love these characters so much and the content of the show.
You need to meet nice people.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I feel like that's the sort of like universal thing that exists, because if so, why we like these totally unlikable characters.
But you know, when you meet Ned and Jamie, they seem like normal knights. You know, they've killed some people, but then you go and you meet like the Mountain, and you know stuff that he's done. You know, crushing people's heads and cutting people in half. Like it just keeps going further and further. You're like, all right, I've had to have met the sickest character by now.
Right.
I've had to have heard the sickest dialogue by now.
When I was watching with my roommate, she just kept saying, "It gets worse," and I said, "How?
How can that get worse?
What are they gonna do? Burn a child alive? What are you gonna do?
Oh wait, they
shit.
Oh god, that was the most traumatic moment of my life watching the show.
And then it's like, oh wait, you know, Littlefinger's bad, and then he gets worse, and then he starts kissing Sansa, and then you're like, all right, you get your lips off of her. You get your lips off of her, and then it's just like, oh.
Yeah, and we were talking about surprises before. I mean, the end of the first season is built on, the surprise heard around the world. It's never been done before.
Never been done.
And that wasn't even the most shocking thing.
I know.
Not even close.
Oh no, yeah. The shock value grows. The shock value really
The Red
grows.
Wedding. I mean, there's nothing.
No.
It just blows you away with how sick these characters are. Even like the normal ones, you're like, Roose Bolton doesn't seem like that bad. And then you see him turn, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, the Mountain Roose, there's no one worse. And then you see Ramsay Bolton. It just shocks you with how violent.
Is there someone worse than Ramsay aside from the White Walkers?
The Mountain.
You think worse than Ramsay?
Well, remember what the Mountain did to Oberyn's sister and children.
Right. But we weren't there to experience that. We've been told that.
Oh, you mean in terms of what you've seen?
Like what we've seen, aside from the White Walkers, who is worse than Ramsay?
Drogon. By the way, awesome thing that I noticed when she opened up the eggs.
Yeah.
Drogon's egg moved it moved just a little.
No way.
I wasn't even noticing that.
To know if that was intentional.
I gotta see that.
I didn't even notice. I gotta watch it again.
Continuity guy.
I gotta watch it again.
Accidental, and they left it in there. Because if you were watching that and it was accidental, you could just be like, "I'll leave that in."
Okay,
or if
I
they
gotta see that,
I gotta look again.
I was like,
I didn't even notice that one.
What really quickly? What were the moments that like as far as the Red Wedding, the Purple Wedding, these big striking moments, Jon Snow's death, and then Rebirth.
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers.
Spoiler
come on.
alert. Come on.
You're not caught up by now. Come on.
What were the big ones that like?
Shireen was the
hard.
one. I was literally. I wish I had a video camera. I was pacing back and forth, 25 feet away, like 3 feet, and I was like, "No, you're not gonna do it! No!" So I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it.
So hard to see.
That was the one that I was just like, all right, I'm gonna stop watching this show if the Starks don't make a comeback.
And that's what I'm saying. There were some episodes I was like, I don't know if I can continue watching.
Yeah. Battle of the Bastards for me.
It was really hard.
That was probably the best. Well, one of the best fight scenes I've seen in a while.
Dude,
that one made me so happy.
When Ramsay kills the youngest Stark by missing the 3 shots and then hitting with the 4th. I was like, what?
Damn.
When Drogon finally comes up and they torch the field, and Jaime's like, "We can hold them off."
Apocalypse now.
Yeah. And then Jaime comes back to King's Landing covered in ash.
I think,
and he's like, "You don't understand." She's like, "We can buy more people." He's like,
"No,
you don't understand."
I think the biggest one for me, aside from like obviously the Red Wedding, which is the most epic moment, I think is when the White Walker raises the dragon from the dead, and now he has a friggin' dragon. There's this ice dragon.
Yeah,
that was probably one of the biggest moments for me.
That had me like, oh shit, they're really about to kill everybody.
And then you see him burning down the wall, and it's just like,
oh, yeah, winter's coming.
Oh, winter's here.
Winter's here. It's cold now.
Blue fire. I was like, is that ice or is that blue fire? It's blue fire. But dude, there's every season there's one heart crunching episode scene where you're just like I don't know how much more I can take. It's really it's like a really
exhausting.
It's a stressful relationship. With that show. I might have to just break up. I don't know how much more I could take up.
Oh gosh, such a vicious cycle.
No, we might have gotten off topic from the question.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we went far off.
Okay, the strengths of the story. So obviously they are incredible at world building. I mean, given to George R.R. Martin, who penned the books, and then Dave Benioff. I believe Dave Benioff and D.B. Weiss just like penned the show, and to create such a world. And I know it's said all the time, but it's so true. And to go to a million different locations and to understand them fully by the end of the season, and to understand the cultures, right? For example, up north, bastards are called snows. Down south, they're called sands, right? I mean, those details, right?
Little things
like that, they're perfect at building those worlds like that. It's just unbelievable. And then taking the written word that George R.R. Martin wrote and turning it into a visual medium, and then painting this person of many faces, right? The man of many faces, and showing him or her or whatever he is or it is, and like seeing that, just like they're so good at that.
Yeah, your writing really takes a step up when you start making characters that have some good and some bad.
Yeah,
in them. The first couple of scripts, your writers are one-dimensional and serve the story, and you're just trying to get through it. But these guys do such a good job about unbelievably complex characters. At first analysis, Ned is just a really good man that got really unlucky. But if you think about it more, he valued duty a little bit too much
to a fault,
and was blind.
Yeah.
And Catelyn, she wasn't completely unwrong when she incorrect when she said. This horror has been visited in my family because I couldn't love a motherless son. She, at first glance, is just completely wholesome, and then later on, it's a little bit more ambiguous. And then they do great things with Jaime Lannister and the Hound.
The best.
The best thing that they do is character arcs on a long term. I've never seen anything like it. I've never hated a character in one season and then watch them get mastered and watch the one thing that defined them get taken away from them and having to rebuild a new personality and completely change how you thought
under the mentorship.
I've never seen that.
Under the mentorship of someone you never would expect. I mean, Bran Tarth, like, you never expect her to be his mentor.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing.
Yeah, that's never been done on the scale before. Most in other shows, the evil guy becomes more evil.
Yeah.
But in this show, it's completly different than that. It changes the way you thought of
you think Joffrey's the baddie, and then he dies, and then you see Ramsay, and you're like, oh, there was someone worse than him. I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy because like they make each person's character arc intertwine with one another, and they grow from that. From each
even
event.
being on different continents.
Yeah, even small things like this, the small things they get into, and I love how you can grow with these characters, and no one's ever at a point of stagnation at any point. At least I never saw that, but each character seems to grow in their own way.
Yeah,
I think that like most people find a favorite character because they see something about themselves in that character.
And Daenerys, you know, has to make some tough decisions. She has to decide whether or not to kill some people who are obviously opposed to her that she's captured. You know, what do you do with prisoners of war in this situation? Do you kill them or not? You could have a very good argument either way about that. Moral ambiguity is perfect.
I
Really,
think that's one of the biggest things
been done here,
Thrones.
and that's just on top of the scope and the scale and the special effects and the acting, like
again,
the perfect cast, like that's on top of everything else.
I know.
The moral ambiguity and the long-term character arcs are like nothing you've ever seen before.
Okay, so the hard question is, what suffers? What do they struggle with?
So I feel like, and again, it's probably small story things to me throughout the entire 7, possibly 8 seasons so far. But I think they should have kept Joffrey alive. You know, I think Joffrey should have stayed alive.
I think
because I only think that because, and I'm not just trying to be savage in my own way. I'm only saying that because I think that his character pointed out one of the biggest themes of Game of Thrones, and that's power. I think that keeping him around would have exhibited.
Cersei. Cersei represents that.
I think Joffrey was that a little more.
What?
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, so I think that because if you see how quickly he came, not only did he come into power very quickly, but he was
He was given it.
Right, so he was given power and he had control over everything.
Cersei
and
took it.
Right. I'm saying the theme of power and how in the wrong hands it can really be like terrible. I think that Joffrey is like probably the best example of that, to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think Cersei's like a pretty bad character, but I don't think she was anywhere near the savagery of Joffrey. And had he grown up, I think he would have been much more savage than her.
What?
Well, they're both really cruel. You know, when they ran out of books and they had to improvise, they made some questionable decisions later on in the show. This whole manufactured drama between Sansa and Arya and other things online that they were getting.
I will say
the time jumps about the scale of the world, how people can get, and also this ridiculous plan of trying to convince Cersei to help them or ask her for a truce. And why would you let Jon Snow go on a suicide mission north of the Wall when he's the king? Like,
he's the guy.
Didn't somebody stand up and be like, listen, if I let you go north of the Wall and you get killed, the whole North will execute me in public, so you're not doing it. So there was some questionable plot decisions in the later seasons. If I had to really criticize before that, it's really brutal on the good guys for years. Like, the good guys lose a lot and are tortured and are unjustly murdered for several of the first seasons. You need real stamina to get through, and the level of cruelty. Like, they didn't have a single victory for a while. The good guys, they were just getting battered and murdered everywhere, and eventually it started to become like, all right, you know, enough is enough. It wasn't until season 5 where things really started to turn. Up in Sansa was. A lot of good people also had a lot of misery visited upon them. You know, there were bad guys that got their comeuppance, but there was a lot of innocent people who really, really suffered. But
I think they struggled in the season where they spent a little too much time in Dorne. And with
the Dorne story was terrible.
It was really not necessary. I don't know.
I
just didn't.
That.
Yeah, exactly.
About that.
Exactly. Right.
Well, Oberyn was one of my favorite characters.
He's great. Yeah, but once
his brother, the king.
Yeah, once that stuff that the daughters
didn't need him at all.
Didn't need it. That was I think my opinion was the weakest. But of course, they're coming from not having that information. That was added because a few things I've heard. I don't want to say anything because I'm not 100% certain, but I know that kind of plot element was just not a favorite of many.
I think that overall, after they ran out of books and they had to improvise, you think that overall they did a good job? Do you think they did very well with how they kept the story going, or you think that it kind of took a radical change that was negative?
I think it sped up. I think it sped up a bit. I think last couple seasons they started going really fast, cramming a lot in
terms of getting everybody to one continent.
One continent, right? It happened quick, I think, and that was just I remember having to suspend my disbelief a bit. You know,
and the political intrigue died down, and that was a lot of fun.
Yes,
because Tyrion was playing the Game of Thrones as a Hand of King and manipulating people and finding out. And Varys and Littlefinger were playing politics, and they had their little birds and everything. And all of a sudden, there's not much for those characters to do. They got rid of Littlefinger, but there wasn't much for Varys to do. And after a while, and he was trying to put. He was in betrayal to Daenerys, and then she forgave him pretty quickly. But why keep him alive and not the other person? Yeah. Also, Tyrion is a little bit overrated as a strategist.
Interesting.
No, not as a character. Not as a character.
As a strategist.
But as a strategist, I'm failing to see. Well, he did great with the Battle of the Blackwater, but what did he do that was that great over for Daenerys? He's just.
He did. He kind of screwed up her town for a minute there.
Yeah, he tried to make a deal with the slavers and that didn't work.
But that was great. He learned from that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if he's a master strategist, but I like their relationship.
Nothing like Littlefinger.
Right, that's true. And
no, he can't compare to Littlefinger. I don't know. I don't think.
I know.
He's smarter than Littlefinger because he's still alive.
Yeah. So Littlefinger all of a sudden became kind of stupid. You know.
How so?
Well, he didn't know anything about the Boltons, and why would he sell Sansa to them? What did he get in exchange for that? Protection from the Boltons? He was trying to
Didn't
please
he get Winterfell
Cersei.
for it?
No, but Cersei, the Queen, would be the one to give him to make him Lord of Winterfell. Okay. So I don't know why he would just grab Sansa, who was very valuable, and just flick her to the Boltons to appease them. What reason did Littlefinger have to appease Roose Bolton? And why would he just hand Sansa over?
I can't wait to read the comments because there's gonna be the answers will be there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Someone else knows.
Someone else has to know. Yeah.
But Varys has kind of run out of things to do.
I'm ready to read them because I want to see all the knowledge that I didn't know.
I miss Stannis.
Around this.
Stannis? He was a great character. And why is Melisandre so bad at being like? Why does she get everything wrong? Like, what can you see in the flames? Should they have done some special effects in the flames? Should I have been able to see what they see in the flames? Like, how does she keep getting it wrong? Like, I looked in the flames and I'm wrong. I followed the wrong person. What do you mean? What do you mean? I mean, you keep seeing the wrong person. Is the Lord of Light just messing with you? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I hope season 8 touches on that. That's a good point.
Yeah, she's coming back. We'll see what happens with her.
Yeah.